can you reach the next level of teaching? We challenge secondary maths teacher Simon Brilliant to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector observes one lesson. 2 experts fine-tune his practice and beef up his presentation. He then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
And this has actually been a far greater challenge than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would just be a doddle.
The next step to improving Simon's teaching is to develop his classroom presence. Communications coach Roger Terry starts by analysing Simon's performance.
I don't want you to draw mapping diagrams.
Just do something for me for a second. Don't think of a blue tree.
Do not draw the mapping like they've got here.
OK.
So when we say don't,
Yes.
and immediately it brings into the person's mind the thing that you don't want them to do. Say what you want rather than what you don't want, because as soon as you say what you don't want, up pops the blue tree.
Yeah.
Roger gives Simon an exercise to help him reflect on how he comes across in the classroom.
We've got 3 positions on the floor. So the first position is you. And I'm just going to get you to stand here next to me and just take yourself back to that time when you were in the class. We'll just do that beginning piece. Take yourself back there and notice, how that was, what you were feeling like.
I mean, I think even at the time, I was aware that I needed to slow it down.
Yeah.
That I was rushing through and giving them lots and lots of instructions.
Yeah. What we want you to do is go and stand over in position 2. And again, just pop your toes on the paper. And this is like stepping into somebody else's shoes and get a sense of what they'll be receiving from you at that point.
Blah, 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 blah. Load of talk. OK, when you tell me I have to do something, when you tell me, then fine, I'll do that. Because at the moment, I'm not part of the class. I'm
So
still
they're not feeling part of the group. So we're going to move over here. So this is not you. This is the dispassionate observer, the fly on the wall. And what you're going to be doing is looking at that interaction.
I think perhaps if this person could wait and stop and say, OK, let's all be together on this before you start launching into it.
So slowing the pace down at that particular might help to just get that sense of purpose going.
Yeah, so actually say, this is important, this is what we're going to do.
So a lot of insights come from being the fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Strangely
Just
enough.
a wee bit.
So, with Simon's final observation just weeks away, it's back to the classroom to put Alison and Roger's advice into action.
What could this be a graph of? Talk to the person next to you. Work out, what could this graph be? What could this be trying to tell us?
Or it could be like levels goes down. A test or something.
Yeah, test. But
Trying in that lesson to incorporate more getting the girls talking to each other. I feel they enjoy it more, because when you say, talk amongst yourselves about something, they actually get in and actually do talk about it.
And yes, Rhiannon.
a temperature of a teacup.
Temperature of a teacup. And Gizem, can you explain what's happening?
Well, it starts off hot and then it's left in the room, so it goes colder and then it stays the same because it stays at room temperature.
Excellent. Yes, it doesn't go down to
We'll spend more time on the fun activity, because it is a Wednesday afternoon. I think it was quite successful from what I could see.
You should have these sheets on your table. You've got 3 graphs. I want you to cut them out using scissors and stick them in your book. And then, as it says, find an appropriate time scale. So,
Been making a conscious effort to use what Roger said about not saying what not to do.
so as what we're saying is this person started with a bar of chocolate, they're absolutely ravenous, and they've just gone... Can you see, though, if we change this from seconds to minutes, it changes the entire way they've eaten it.
And depends on how much chocolate it is. If it's a big one, then it'll take much longer.
If it was a huge cooking bar and it was in seconds, 50 seconds, how much of a pig is this person?
A very big pig.
Yeah.
It's really hard work, because every lesson takes so much more time to plan. You need to really use your imagination. How can I use these worksheets to get the objective of the lessons over and come up with some interesting activities?
That takes half an hour for the boiling water to go down here.
I didn't know you don't know how to cook peas.
Simon and Head of Department James watch that first lesson again.
So I've noticed there was an awful amount of you there at the beginning.
Yes, it would have been so much better, now that I've seen it, to go, get the girls up, get them to do more of this, because I'm just talking far too much at them.
I don't want you to draw mapping diagrams. I want you to draw position to term diagrams.
It's really interesting because you can see yourself there saying, don't do this, not this, this, like this, back to here. And also you can see that you think you're being really clear.
I'm being really clear. I'm saying don't do that, do it like this. And look, I've shown you how I want you to do it over here. So here it is, and here, but not like this. And I've even told you to turn your sheet sideways so it looks like it.
So now we're rotating as well as not doing this. See the point about the clarity of instruction. Taught the lesson, seen the lesson, had all your clinics and note there's things for you to develop. How does that make you feel?
I'm actually quite shocked, I suppose. But I thought it was such a good lesson. Or at least, it was a moderately good one. And now seeing it with all this feedback, you just think, oh, I really do have quite a lot to do. There's quite a lot of work I can do to improve my lessons.
With only a few days to go before Claire returns, Simon is struggling to keep the girls focused.
If I substitute x is 0 into that equation, y equals 3x plus 4, what value of y do I get? Dear oh dear. Talk to the person next to you, see if you can work it out. If I put in x is 0 into this, what value of y do I get out? If x is 0, what does y equal? Everyone's gone to sleep.
Hello, Simon.
Hello, Alison.
How you been getting on?
Simon gets some last-minute tips from Alison.
I'm only concerned that, are we actually sort of having fun and losing sight of we should be learning some maths here?
So thinking about how you're going to sort of focus them then, it's some sort of incentive. So, for example, gathering what they found out in the form of a poster or doing, 2 minutes presentation to be something to try.
Okay.
Best of luck, Simon.
Thanks for ringing.
Okay, bye.
Bye. When Claire comes back and observes my lessons again, she might not see a great deal of difference. I'm a little bit concerned that I haven't had enough time to sort of practice all the things that I wanted to practice. But we'll just go with that and see what happens. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use exactly what Alison showed me. And we're going to be doing something, we're just going to be ripping that off. Basically, blatantly. So, sorry Alison, but that's life, right?
Claire Gillies is back for the final observation. With all the expert advice behind him now, will Simon have made the grade?
Where's the y?
What is a y-intercept? You did this last lesson. Yes, you did. Well, girls, we've got a straight line here, and I've got a y-axis here. So what possibly what a y-intercept be on a straight line? Goodness me. Was it really that long ago? Was it really a long weekend we've all forgotten? The point where a straight line hits the y-axis is the y-intercept. Right, I need one person from each table to come up. You're going to be representing your table in our little follow my leader game. So if I take this counter, this is my green counter, and I move it up to there. Now can you move your counters? Really?
Mm-hmm. That's not 2. Oh, we went up too small. We meant to go up another 2, or I don't know.
Today in maths, there was about 5 of us who went up to the board, and Sir would move his counter, say 2 spaces up, and then we'd have to copy it and say 2 spaces up. At some points we kind of got a bit confused, but then we kind of worked it out afterwards. And then we did the same on a sheet of paper with little blocks.
This set of axes, get a load of counters, put them on the lines, like we're doing the dots on the board, and follow the instructions on task 1 to find out what the y-intercept is when you move these lines up or down. Okay? You need to be working in groups, so don't be working individually, work in groups.
So, do you have to put the counters on the points?
Yeah.
Wait, put your counters on the line. Where does the line cross?
What do you need to do?
The counters they're really nice to play with, but I would like something straight because the counters were a bit square and we couldn't quite get the angles right because they had to be straight.
Slightly more amusing. Can you turn over your sheets? Look at task number 7. Number 7 says, write down the next 2 terms of the following sequence. Use your blocks and make patterns on this that represent the first 4 terms of that sequence. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 4, take away 1.
Can you come up with other ones? Okay, so I want the first 4 of that, but can you come up with another one? See what you do, play around with the blocks, see if that helps you.
It's just square. We're just doing square numbers. What else can we do with squares?
Does it change the way you rearrange it? It's all very well having just the numbers, but if you rearrange them, does it make a different pattern?
Props that we have do help because they give you a physical example of the word that you're supposed to be doing rather than just a piece of paper.
Kawana, can you explain what yours is doing?
Mine is a square number, so basically 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, and so on.
And this is exactly the same as your ponds investigation. Where you did a little square pond and you said, how many slabs do we have to put around the outside of it? What are we doing to get the next number?
Adding 4.
We're adding 4. So what's the problem with only having 2 numbers at the beginning?
You can do different things with them.
Yeah, so if we only have 2 numbers for a sequence, it's not really enough information. Right, girls. I haven't even got that.
Tell me how you think it went sort of as a whole.
Getting the girls to use the blocks works really well, and they're working nicely in groups. And once they've got the obvious one of add 3.
Add 3, yes.
Then some of them went off and found all sorts of different shapes.
Yes, they certainly got the point that there are lots of different ways of going on from a sequence like that. And then look back to the sort of first half on about straight lines and axes.
I mean, it was supposed to be a continuation of what we did last lesson.
Right.
Repeating that, but it just did not work. They didn't understand either moving the blocks, even though I thought I tried to explain it clearly. And
it was quite clear to me that some girls, you see, were putting cubes on, but then they didn't know where was the dot, in the sense of the dot that would make the line, because the cube covers a whole square.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, for some of them, whether having just worked with dots and then going to cubes was, for some of them, definitely a hurdle. Yeah. But let's try and see some of the elements that were there that perhaps weren't present when I watched you teach before. There was much more a feeling of enjoyment in the whole lesson. I felt they were sort of more with you, and there was a better rapport. You obviously have begun to use group work, and the more they do it, the more they'll get into the habit of doing it. So that's something to really cultivate, I think, in the future. Their concentration, I think, was better overall because we had 2 separate chunks, so we didn't sort of get too long in one session. Again, do you remember we talked last time about relevance and why are we doing it? It was lovely, you see, when we got that link back to the ponds that they'd done in Year 7. But have we at any stage talked about why we're interested in straight lines on Y and X axes?
I don't believe we have.
Well, perhaps that's your next huge challenge to consider. How can I make that relevant to their lives when to them it seems just rather abstract?
Yeah.
So if you keep on building on all those hints of better things that we saw today, your teaching's going to get better and better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Claire. I think my teaching's improved by making my lessons more enjoyable. And if they find them more enjoyable, then it must be you're a better teacher. I'm beginning to get the sort of towards maybe the foothills of becoming an outstanding teacher. But I don't think I'm anywhere near the sort of even halfway up.